Hi, everyone, and welcome to CDO Magazine's series of conversations with CDOs, data leaders, and key influencers. I'm Parker Thompson, RVP and General Manager of North America East at Denodo. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Andrew Foster, Chief Data Officer at M&T Bank. Andrew, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And great to be here with you, Parker. And you're coming from what looks like a quite beautiful, I'm guessing, New York City. Is
New
that
York
right?
City. Yep, 54th and Broadway.
So Andrew Foster, I'm Chief Data Officer for M&T Bank. That comes with two accountabilities. The first is develop and deliver a data strategy for the organization. And then the second is develop and deliver an AI strategy for the organization. So yeah, really happy to be here today because we're at that intersection point of where data and AI come together.
Excellent. And Andrew, you've been with M&T for about 2 years now, right?
That's right.
Can you describe your key milestones in developing and executing your data strategy so far?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think with data, it's a tough topic, and I think we've got a culture as data professionals sometimes of wanting people to understand our data geek language, and that doesn't necessarily work well when you're working across heads of business who have their own domain expertise but aren't necessarily experts in the data space. So the first thing was really saying, well, how do we know where we are? And for that, we used the EDM Association's DCAM measurement to do a current state assessment and then work out where we wanted to get to. And then that took the form of our first 2-year strategy. So that was from October 2023 through to now October 2025. We've executed successfully on it. We got good investment. And now it's about looking ahead at the next 2 years.
As you mentioned in your introduction, you're in the process now of now that you've got the data strategy where you want it, or at least directionally correct. Now you're pivoting more to focus on AI and in particular Copilot. How do you see that journey unfolding?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I actually just came off a call with one of the sort of the large top 4 consulting firms, and they were talking about their Copilot deployment. I firmly view that Copilot or let's say tools like it are table stakes for any big organization now. So that's been something that's been a great success for us. We've rolled out Copilot to about 17,000 employees, and now it's all about how do we unlock all of the value that we feel that we can create. So the first hard step is done. I think with lots of banks and other well-regulated institutions, you need to make sure that you've got your compliance and governance ducks in a row, and you need to invest the time in that and safety first, which is what we've done. And then now it's about unlocking your value. So well underway.
So okay, interesting. So you've already rolled out some form of Copilot to 17,000 employees.
Yeah, that's right. It's a Microsoft Copilot Chat and Microsoft Copilot 365.
That is amazing. I mean, you mentioned the fact that working for a bank, they're on top of all the other elements, right, of just delivering a service. It's a heavily regulated industry, and I don't know if there's anything you can comment on from what sensitivities you ran into or what things you felt you needed to address before you were able to deploy like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting for everyone listening because people in my role, you can, depending on your organization, feel a lot of pressure based on what's in the external media. So if you look in the media at the moment around AI, every next article is about the person who's done the next best thing. And I think it's important, frankly, to ignore that, right? And my mantra is always, what do we ground ourselves in? And we ground ourselves in being a community bank. We ground ourselves in having the trust of our customers. So job number one is keep on doing those things, right? So when we looked at Microsoft Copilot, we ran a really extended proof of concept for about 6 months. And it wasn't just, hey, does the technology work? Frankly, I expected the technology to work, and it does. It was more about how do you bring all of your partners to the table? Compliance, privacy, legal, HR. You've got new implications of these new technologies. And then, first line risk, second line risk, compliance, audit. One big gang that had to both be educated, working with our corporate partner in Microsoft, get to a place where we go, this is how we are going to implement, and this is how we are going to feel comfortable that we're staying true to our core principles.
That's really interesting. So I asked you what I thought was going to be more of like a regulatory compliance question, and you answered it with trust. which
Yeah.
obviously is a much, compliance is obviously part of trust, but you see this in a much broader context in terms of, protecting all the participants, right?
100%. And I think, talking less about M&T and talking just about, there's whatever, 4,500 banks across the US. Do your customers want you to be cutting edge at AI, or do they want to be able to trust that you're treating their information with care? Right. And it's 100% the second one. 100%. Now, I think when we look at the potential for AI across the industry, much like the potential for cloud, these are things which have high value, and it's difficult to sometimes realize that value. But it's very much, I think, a forward momentum on all fronts across the industry.
And that probably is part of what's helping you move as quickly as you're moving, right? I mean, and I'm saying that I've been in capital markets and banking for 38 years, and the rate at which you're deploying this, both from a data strategy and then from an incremental AI approach, is blindingly fast.
I don't know. Like, I'll answer that in two ways. So when I look at our investment into data and data enabling cloud-based technology, yeah, I think we've moved pretty quick since April 2024. We've onboarded sort of 4 to 5 new enabling target state technologies, very much focused across that data governance space, data science workbench space. So there, I think we've moved pretty fast. I think when it comes to Copilot and AI, I think we're probably middle of the pack. I think there's large banks that everyone will recognize who are way ahead of everybody else. They have a certain amount of investment. They were early at the table. And there's some organizations which are probably lagging. But frankly, I'll go back to the very first point I made. Like, I don't really care, right? It's what is the right pace to move at for M&T. And step number one was, how do we build up all of the control conditions that we need to be in place to feel comfortable in adoption. But now I want to accelerate the value creation, right? That's what's important to us now. But there was no desire to move at anybody else's pace in terms of the initial deployment.
Excellent. I think that's going to be really insightful for a lot of the folks that will watch this video. How do data governance and value capture factor into your AI roadmap? And maybe even if you want to answer that more broadly.
Yeah.
But
Yes. So I think so. If we look at, I think a topic like AI, it's a lot of the time it's broad, it's all encompassing. It means different things to different people. So you need a way to frame it for your organization. So the way that we look at it is we have 6 or so categories of investment. So you could think of that as personal productivity, of cyber, of credit, different ways to just bucket use case categories. And then you think of that as the left-hand side of a matrix. You think across the top side, you've got Copilot by itself, like in different forms of Copilots. You've then got embedded AI within third-party applications, and then you've got differentiated capability that you build yourself. So when you look at that matrix, what I always talk about is the intersection point is talent, right? So we are going to find areas, and we are finding areas. We have some pilots underway and real deliveries underway, which are in one of those investment categories. You could call Copilot a good example, personal productivity. And then we've got to decide, like, how do we best go after this? And you best go after it either through one of the 3 options I mentioned, but then the intersection point has to be grounded in talent. So if you're talking about a new form of AI enablement, who is the person, who is the leader within the organization who's going to be that driving force? Because what I firmly believe is you need to look and re-ideate how you approach your business unit with these enabling technologies, such that you can be successful over a multi-year period. And you need people who are willing to both lean on their domain expertise, but reassess what that domain expertise means in the context of new forms of technology. And then how do you bring them together, right? How do you bring these things together and be successful?
Andrew, I want to thank you. This has been an incredible session. And I know CDO Magazine hopes to see you again soon on one of these sessions. So thank you all very much.
It's great. Thank you, Parker.